In this video, we're going to be showing you how you can take interactions, you can ingest interactions. We're not showing that part, but we're going to show once you've ingested those interactions into Airtable, how you can create some normalized data out of unique emails. So we're going to show you how to clean up the emails. You can see a little preview here, get things lowercase, deal with trailing and leading spaces, spaces in the middle, and how you can normalize that into emails. If you haven't met us before, this is Charlie and I'm Ben from Optimize IS. We build these kind of solutions all day long. So if you need any help, check out the link in the description. Also in this, I think there's like 3 parts to this video series. In each one, there'll be a link to the base that we built here where you can get access to any of the formulas or any of the automations and all of this. Without further ado, we're going to jump into the video now, normalizing some of this data and creating unique contacts, companies, emails, and domains.
Like, how do you think through creating interactions that link to contacts, that link to companies, that link to projects or leads? Um, so like right now, what you've created is a contacts table.
So not quite, because there's like duplicate records. These are more like emails that just came in to my inbox.
All right, so interactions. So yeah, the prompt is when you're receiving all these interactions, and interactions can actually have multiple emails associated with them. So like the top interaction might actually be Ben, comma, Jerry at Nordstrom.com. And there would also be Anne at Nordstrom.com. And also so like what do you do when you have a string of participants in an email where if some of these people aren't already in your contacts table, you want to create a record for them and link them to this interaction. How do you know what company they're associated with and not have duplicates in the system? So there's many ways to do it, but one way is to, and it's kind of like an old fashioned, I'd say like a brute force way, but it does the job, it does it right, is to then create another table called emails. So you'd create a link to a new table called emails. And you'd have an automation.
So that's saying what right there? So emails, the email field is filled in, but the linked record field has not been filled in yet.
Exactly. Exactly. So like this actually probably shouldn't be an email field. I'm not sure what you think about that. I would probably make this just a single line text. I'm not sure if there's a benefit to using the email field over that, but it would be like a single line text that's coming through from your integration service. And then the goal is to paste this right here. That's all we want the automation to do.
And what's that going to do when it basically pastes it there?
So pasting it is going to do a couple of things. It's going to dedupe by itself. So if I pasted a couple of the same emails in this string, it's going to make sure that it's not going to create multiple of those same types of emails. And it's then going to allow us in this separate table to start extracting the domain from this email, which is then going to let us connect this email to a company eventually. Like, how do I know Jerry at Nordstrom.com is? What company he's related to?
So that little blue plus lets you pull the record ID from the triggering step.
Yeah, so I want to update in the interactions table the record ID that triggered this automation. And then I want to just paste in that linked record field all of the emails that came through. And we'll give this, or we'll give it maybe link interaction email list to email table.
So
Okay.
before you do that, I don't know if we should consider this, but I added some anomalies. Like maybe we're getting this data from different sources. Maybe somebody is filling out a form for some of these sources and they're typing it in. Maybe they leave like a trailing space at the end, or they capitalize certain things. How would you solve, like, is that something we need to worry about? Like, for example, if I look at 12 and 11 and records 11 and 12, or that last one, um, things are capitalized different places.
It's a good question. I'm actually not sure. So let's test this manually. So uppercase and lowercase doesn't seem to be an issue. And spaces also doesn't. I think Airtable handles that really well. And the trimming would be hard because this is a payload that came from your integration service. So it's more like you'd want to trim it at the source. So in Make or wherever you're sending these interactions from is where you'd want to trim it. But like Google Calendar or Gmail that's integrated natively with Airtable does a good job like trimming things from these types of uh, data inputs. So yeah, I guess the goal is like, and I guess just to test the other concept, which is like duplicative. So let's put Ben's again. And Ben is not a contact in the table already, so there's more of a chance that this would happen. Let's see, it doesn't. So Airtable does a really good job deduping when it's creating records in this paste method. And there's a lot of other tricks like for using this because dupes are really hard to avoid. Like if instead of this, I iterated and I said like go and find an email that matches this, and if not, create it. There's a really big chance that like it's just going to create duplicates and it's going to like clog up like a lot of workflows when these duplicates start to be created.
So I think that's actually one of the big problems we're solving in this video is I've actually created automations like this before where the record gets created and then I think the Make or Zapier or Airtable API term we're trying to do is upsert a record. We want it to find or create, or I guess in some cases we want to update, but we at least want it to go find or create a record in the emails table that matches the email ben@optimizeis.com. But what I think the problem is when two records get triggered at nearly the same time and the find record actions are happening at nearly the same time, then it in both cases it says, oh, there's no contact here, but it's because two automations are running simultaneously. And so then it creates two ben@optimizeis's. And that's I think one of the big problems we're solving initially here.
That's exactly right. And that's like a really, really annoying problem to have for a business because then a lot of them further downstream automations that are trying to connect to Ben's contact find now two records or three records. And now it becomes very confusing. So yeah, this is really big. And it's kind of unfortunate that this is really the only way to do it. To your point, like an upsert function, core function would be really good. I think Zapier did or does this kind of well, where you can update a record and there's a checkbox that says, create a record if not found.
So a question I get or I see a lot is you turned on that automation. Why didn't all these get processed?
Yeah, because technically I haven't triggered it yet. The trigger is that this is empty and this is not empty. When I turn it on, that just means, okay, now get ready for something to meet those conditions. But technically, nothing is entering like that world, which is a good thing. You wouldn't want to turn it on and Airtable just go and get all of your data and start firing across all the things that meet the conditions. Sometimes you do, but those are much rarer than the times you don't. So the way that you could trigger it is by Like one way is just like deleting this and doing Command Z to bring it back, which will trigger the automation. Or another thing is to like choose an arbitrary person over here and then delete that. Either of those two things will now make this record become like meeting the conditions to run the automation.
Can you make it look really pretty? Make it light up the whole screen. Make them all run at once.
Yeah, we could do that. So let's do, I mean, putting on the spot, that's only going to run those. And this is only going to run the other ones. But and that's the other thing is like Airtable, when you're running a batch of like 10 or 15, it runs pretty quickly. But sometimes if you trigger like hundreds, Airtable goes like, whoa, whoa, whoa. All right, let's get ready for this. And puts on its like back brace and everything. And maybe starts running like a minute later, you start getting some records going. So hopefully they improve that.
So this is interesting. It looks like the automation behaved slightly different than our copy paste.
And that's really bad. That's a really bad outcome. So it did create an additional bend and optimize, not that it had any trailing or leading. And so what that means is you do have to normalize the data. So what I would do here is I'd create a new field to say lower email. And we might just trim it to make it better.
Can I put you on the spot again and pretend, let's pretend you wanted to get rid of any space in the middle of it. How would you, like in that first one, how would you do that?
Yeah, if you want to remove a space, you do substitute, and you substitute from this the space, and you'd put just that.
So can we look back at those formulas and just talk a little bit about what those are doing? And these looks pretty similar to Excel to me.
Yeah, so like it kind of starts at the root saying I want to make the email lowercase. I could technically put lower outside over here. I could technically not even put trim. Maybe for like line breaks or something. But yeah, like this doesn't have to be in this order, but it makes sense that I want to make this lower, then I want to trim that body of email, and then I want to take out all of the spaces and replace it with nothing. So just replace it with an empty nothing. And there's probably other ways to write this. I kind of write it in this method, but yeah, substitute's a really powerful thing.
I usually write it in that same exact way, so I think that's pretty spot on in it. The output of that is usually, it looks very nice compared to like very messy data that you get.
And you can probably, like there's probably a lot of people who have seen really complex like substitutes of substitutes of substitutes of substitutes, where now I'm saying like, not only do I want to substitute the spaces, but I want to substitute from this body, I don't know, like any type of, let's just do the ads just to make it fun. Oh, never mind. Airtable didn't like that.
You're missing the what you want to replace it with. Just empty quotes.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. We can edit that out, right?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah. So you can do like substitutes on top of substitutes. Now let's try this again. So I'm going to actually delete these emails here, which should re-trigger the automation. Let's just do a big batch over here. Oh, I haven't changed the automation to paste the new value. So we go over here, we're going to change what's being updated to be this new email lowercase, which you can also now call it like email formatted for automation. I know some people like to put a gearbox or other things there inside the email. Sorry, inside the field name. All right, so this should be good now. Now let's try again. Okay, so now we can delete those ugly emails, but that's a good catch. Like one thing like that, you kind of take your eyes off of an automation that you just set up because you're not testing it. You don't want to test it. It's live data. And then the client writes to you the next day and is like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And you're like, what do you mean? Okay. So yeah, you do have to be careful because yeah, you test it with a paste and it works. Then you test it with an automation doing the same thing.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So what we just did is how we typically use Airtable to create unique contacts in a database. And if you want the link to the formula that Charlie just wrote or the automation, there should be a link in the description of this video that gets you access to this base so you can duplicate the base and bring it into your workspace and see how Charlie did this. It'll actually be the completed version of this. But I think in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to take this a step further and we're going to say, take all these emails and now create unique companies. And I think we'll have to do a little bit of magic because like the purpose of this is to be doing domain level matching, but sometimes we get generic domains like Gmail. So that's what it'll be in the next video. Click the video here in the end screen to go watch that, which is just right here in the end screen. Just click it and we'll go learn how to create unique companies out of unique contacts. So this went all the way from interactions, emails, and then companies. So go click that video in the end screen and we'll see you there.